Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is lecture number 38. The name of the paper is Literary Criticism 1. The name of the book we are studying is On the Sublime by Longinus. And the topic is the answer to this question: who moves us more, a faultless poet or a faulty genius? Uh, Moves here means to impress. So does a faultless genius impresses us more, or a faultless poet impresses us more? But we will try to understand what is meant by faultless as far as Longinus is concerned, and what is meant by a faulty genius. This lecture is specifically for the students of BS English 5th semester GDC PABI, and it is also for the students of those colleges which are affiliated with Abdul Wali Khan University. The topic, as you know now, is who moves us more, who impresses us more. A faulty poet impresses us more, or a faultless poet impresses us more, or a faulty genius impresses us more. According to Longinus, sublimity can be achieved only by that poet or that playwright or by that orator who is a genius, and only that genius, though he may be faulty, can produce great work of art. So he compares the faulty genius and the faultless writer, and the conclusion he reaches at is that faultlessness cannot produce great work of literature. And this looks very strange, that if there is no fault in something, then why wouldn't it be a great work of literature? And that the work of genius is always done by the one who is genius and who has faults in him. But even then, with those faults, he is considered great by Longinus. This is what we will explain here. So first of all, we need to know what is meant by faultless with reference to Longinus. What is, according to Longinus, the meaning of faultless? Faultless here implies the observance of certain rules. If these rules are observed and followed, the writer becomes faultless. And if rules are violated, he becomes faulty. So for Longinus, the one who follows and observes the rules and regulations made by different poets, dramatists, and those rules are followed, that writer is considered faultless. And if he violates these rules, then he becomes faulty. According to Longinus, faultless cannot be sublime, and his works cannot have sublimity in them. This is the point which needs explanation, and we will explain that by giving different reasons given by Longinus. Longinus gives different reasons for saying so, that a faultless writer cannot be sublime, and that his works cannot have sublimity. Why not? He gives different reasons. Because ordinarily, an ordinary person would consider that someone who is faultless, why wouldn't he be a great or sublime writer? So he gives different reasons for this. The first reason is the one who follows rules, that is not considered great by Longinus, though he may be faultless. So rules, as we know, they deal only with figures of speech, as we have done it, figures of speech, diction, and composition. These were the last three characteristics of sublimity, but they can be achieved with the help of practice, with the help of study. They are not natural things. They do not come uh, to someone with the help of nature. They are achieved with the help of studying the rules. So rules deal with figures of speech, with diction, and with composition. That soul of the thing is not included in it. The imagination is not there, and the passions are also not included in them. The soul, imagination, and passions, they are natural products, and these three are achieved with the help of practice and with the help of study. So, rules deal with the figures of speech, diction, and composition, where imagination and passions will have no place. So, rules, as we said, deals with the manner and with the form. The manner and the form contains figures of speech, diction, and composition, and these the manner of the writer, the form created by the writer may be perfect. His composition may be wonderful, but he cannot attain the peak of sublimity. The reason is that he is now dealing with the form, the outer structure, and not with the inner soul. Therefore, you will not be able to achieve sublimity. This is the first reason that someone who is faultless based on following the rules. And the one who follows the rules actually is interested in figures of speech, in diction, and in composition. These are the characteristics, these are the things for the writers which are achieved with the help of practice, but that the soul, imagination, and passions, which is something natural, is not there. Therefore, rules deal with manner and form, and the manner and form will not make the work of a writer sublime. So, this is the first reason that he tells us that sublimity is not possible in someone who is faultless, that is, in someone who knows how to write in a good manner or in a good form, but who doesn't know about the passions, imagination, and so on. The second reason is again related with rules, that we achieve rules, we arrive at the rules by studying the practices of great writers. Um, when the great writers do something and we study those great writers and what they practice, what they do, after studying them, we make rules. For example, if we come to know what practices Homer followed and we study them, we will then arrive at the rules of writing epics because he was an expert writer in epics. So, as a result, we'll be able to know the rules of epics. If we study Sophocles and what he practiced and his different practices, we will arrive at the rules of tragedy because he was an expert in tragedy writing. So once we know his practices, we will know the rules of tragedy. The rules, we are talking about the rules, the outer form and not the inner spirit. According to Longinus, greatness can be achieved in different ways. That is, there is not a single road which takes you to greatness. There are different roads through which you can reach the ultimate goal. So, if we want to know what was true of Greek tragedy was not true of Elizabethan tragedy. See, Greek tragedy was one road which led to greatness, but Elizabethan tragedy was another road, and both these roads cannot be similar. So the practices of Greek playwrights, they were quite different from the practices of English playwrights, but even then, both of them can lead to perfection or can lead to sublimity by following different roads. According to Longinus, there are three things which are very important in great literature or in sublime literature. The first thing is the spirit of the age. Spirit of the age means that when you are writing in one age, your writing will be different from the age which was different. So, as a result, those who wrote in the Greeks' time had a different spirit, while those who wrote in the Elizabethan time had different spirit. The same is the case of ethos, which means character of people. The character of people of one area is different from the character of people of the other area. And the third one is the individual vision of life. Um, for example, the vision of life of one writer is different from the vision of life of another writer. One writer looks at life differently from the other writer. For example, we can say that the rules of 4th century BC, they are different, 4th century and 5th century. They cannot be applied to the rules of 16th century and 17th century England, because the people are different. These three, the spirit of the age is different, and the character of the people is different, and individual vision of the life the writer has, that is also different. So 5th century or 4th century has its own rules, regulations, visions, ethos, spirit. Everything is different from the place, though the place is also different and the age is different. So that makes difference. And because the spirit of Elizabethan period is different from classical Greece, of course there will be different roads, different rules to be followed in order to become great, in order to become sublime. The character of the English people, as we discussed, is different from the character of Greek people, and there are no rules which can be followed by all the times, by all the ages, by all the people. Therefore, Shakespeare was great because he wrote about the spirit of his age, that is 16th century, and he wrote about the people, the ethos, the character of his people. And Shakespeare, we know that he broke all the rules, the Grecian rules. The rules of the Greek were broken, but still he was great. He was different from Sophocles, he was different from Aeschylus because the age was different, the ethos of the people, the character of the people were different, and he had a different idea about leading a life. Shakespeare would not have been Shakespeare if he had imitated Sophocles or if he had imitated Euripides. So, as we said, that there can be different roads to greatness, there can be different roads to God. And therefore, Shakespeare was a great and sublime poet in a different way as compared to Sophocles. Their ideas were different, Shakespeare's ideas were different, the ages in which they lived were different. Uh, but even then, both of them were great because there are different roads taken by different people to achieve greatness, to become one with God. So, as we say as a result, that by following the rules, greatness cannot be achieved because the fixed rules would not make you great. Rules may change with the passage of time, and rules may change from person to person, rules may change from age to age. Therefore, there are different roads uh, to achieve greatness, and there are no fixed rules for any specific thing to be followed, which are followed and which are fit for all the ages and all types of characters. So, this was the second reason. The third reason is that rules, we know that they are deliberate process, they are conscious process, because rules do not come to you automatically. They come to you with the help of practice, with the help of study. Therefore, they are conscious, they are deliberate. You study deliberately, consciously, and with the help of practice, you do all these. Knowledge of rules, therefore, is gained, and then after gaining the knowledge, it is applied. In this process of gaining, which is done with the help of practice, with the help of conscious process, deliberate process, the imagination becomes dry, because imagination is something which is free from all this hard work and from all these practices, because it comes to you naturally. And once the imagination becomes dry and the patience become cool, even the faultless work will not be a great piece of art, because there wouldn't be any imagination. So that is because of the lack of imagination that the work doesn't become a great work. The D reason, or the fourth reason, is that we should look at the genius's aim. The aim of the faultless person and the aim of the genius person, though he may be faulty, that aim is extremely high, that aim is unattainable, very bold, very daring, and genius is always careless about the dangers. He doesn't take into account any dangers. He follows that path and he is filled with passions and he tries to achieve impossible goal. This is the greatness. Try to achieve an impossible goal will is bound to fail because impossible cannot be achieved. But this failure is the real sign of success. This failure is more than success because impossible cannot be achieved. Therefore, the faultless person, which follows rules and not imagination, he keeps his aim very small, and this aim can be very easily achieved. He goes on a very straight and narrow path. He goes very carefully and cautiously. But genius, on the other hand, is not worried about all these dangers, and he goes whatever the path is like. That great man always has faults because he follows the impossible. He tries to achieve the impossible, and he is bound to have faults and to fail. So, faultlessness, therefore, is found in mediocre poets, in the poets who of lesser quality and not of sublime quality. Therefore, there is no sublimity there. Longinus gives us different examples. He says that we know that a candle is more useful, it gives light, and comparing it with volcano eruption, which is dangerous, destructive. But which one, he asks, is grand and looks grand and impresses us? That is, of course, not candle, that is volcano. The volcano has uh, the dangers in it, but even then, volcano is considered great and impressive. Though volcano is destructive, it gives out fire, but it dazzles us, it fills men with awe, and we admire it. Then he gives in the same manner another example, a stream and an ocean. We know that the stream has sweet water, it is cold, it quenches our thirst, it is very useful. On the other hand, the water of ocean is not drinkable, but we still admire ocean and at stream, those ocean has its own faults. So ocean is comparable to faulty genius, and stream to uh, faultless person. So you know that stream, though it might be useful, is not impressive. Ocean, though its water is salty, is very impressive. So Longinus makes a comparative study of faultless writer and faulty genius, and he gives these different examples which we studied now to prove that great writers are not faultless. And he also gives examples from epic poetry, lyrical poetry, tragedy, and oratory. Um, all these are given in order to prove that a faulty genius is better and he is able to create sublime works, while a faultless one is not able to create great pieces of work because he is the type of person who follows rules, not imagination. He is impressed by rules only. So he compares Homer and Apollonius, both of them epic writers. Apollonius was also a great writer and he wrote quality epics, and he was a learned man. He was full of education, and he had already read the great works of literature because he was well read in these all types of literature, and he was the master of language. He knew what words to choose and how to arrange them, which impressive words to follow and which to leave out. His epic, one of his epic, uh, deals with the journey of Jason. Jason is the name of a person. When he was a kid, uh, his father, who was a king, father and mother, the parents, they were attacked by Jason's uncle, and his father was killed, and he got married to his mother. That was by force, of course. Then Jason grew up. He came to this kingdom in order to liberate his mother, and he came to the king. The king demanded that the golden fleece should be brought, and if Jason is able to get that golden fleece from somewhere, then he would liberate his mother. This epic is now you can also watch a movie of Jason and his golden fleece. It is a faultless epic as far as the diction is concerned. As far as the composition is concerned, Apollonius is a perfect writer. The art he uses is perfect, but he is not like Homer, though Homer is not faultless like Apollonius. But Homer has some characteristics, that is, imagination, passions. They are there, which are missing in Apollonius. Apollonius doesn't have any fire in him, he doesn't have any passions in him, and there is no power of forming grand conception, which are natural abilities. These are found in Homer only. So, Homer, though he is a faulty writer, not knowing the rules that much, but even then he is greater as compared to Apollonius. The second comparison is that of Demosthenes and Hyperides. Demosthenes and Hyperides, both of them were orators. Hyperides was a cultured orator, educated one, and he had a very large vocabulary. He had a very good choice of words and very good sense of humor. On the other hand, Demosthenes was uneducated. He was not very cultured. He was quite mad as compared to him, and he had no sense of humor. But he possessed the love of the country, the love of his own country, and there was no place for jokes and humor in his speeches, but he had passions and imaginations. And these two were the qualities which are valued much by Longinus, and therefore he considers Demosthenes as the greater orator as compared to the next one. His every sentence he compares that sentence with the thunderbolt or the flash of lightning, and he is fiery right from the beginning. He doesn't go step by step, slowly and gradually. The effect is not created, but like a fire, the like a thunderbolt, the effect is created. There is no art in his case. That is, the diction and composition may not be that great. There are many faults, but on the one hand, we have faultless Hyperides, and on the other hand, we have faulty Demosthenes. But Demosthenes is great and sublime because of the different reasons. Demosthenes is considered great and sublime because of the reason given above, that though he is faulty, but he is a faulty genius, and though he is not faultless, which refers to the faultlessness in his skill, faultlessness in the use of diction, etc. The third example Longinus gives is from tragedy, where he compares Sophocles and Chios. Sophocles, you might be aware of his name, but Chios is a different name, and you might have not heard this name. Chios was faultless, but he was not great, and Sophocles was full of imagination, and therefore he was passionate, and as a result, he had sublimity in him in his writings, in his dramas, while Chios he was faultless as far as the form and structure is concerned, but as far as the spirit is concerned, Sophocles was wonderful. The next example is given from lyrical poetry, where he compares Pindar, who is the writers of Odds and Bacchylides, who was considered faultless, but he was not great. Pindar, though he was faulty, but he was great. And in each case, the cases given above, each example, Longinus admires faulty genius. This is the conclusion we make, that he gives much value to faulty genius rather than faultless, skillful person. There are different psychological reasons for preferring faulty genius. Um, for example, man has a divine spirit in him, and his body is allied with the animals because we eat, we drink, and we take rest like animals. But our spirit is something divine which comes from God. Man also has soul in him, and this soul comes from God. Um, this is the spirit of God, which is there in human beings. So there is the presence of God in human heart, and because of this divine fire, man is never satisfied. There is no limit to his passions, to his aspirations, and he wants to reach infinite. But of course, one cannot reach infinite, and therefore he has to fall short. And as a result, he becomes faulty. So he is never satisfied because of this spirit, because of this spark of God. He is never satisfied, even if the whole world is given to him, and he searches for what lies beyond this world. So man admires great failures, but not small successes, and this is something which is psychological, and he gives this psychological reason for the greatness of someone who is, though faulty, but he is a genius. So man is, as we know, impressed by grand and wonderful, which may be dangerous or destructive, as we did the example of volcano, and the example of candle, and the example of a stream and ocean. So grand is and wonderful is actually something which is impressive for human beings, and therefore he admires it. Man never admires uh, in comparison with the volcano candle. Though candle has its utility, its uses, man admires volcanic eruption because it is grand, though it is destructive and it is horrific, but even then it is admired by the people. And the same is the case with the stream, which is full of sweet water, cold water, but that is not admired as much as is ocean, because ocean amazes us. It is limitless. It has limitless water, and its waves rise and fall, and though it's undrinkable, but even then it is impressive. So you can see these are the psychological reasons given for liking faulty genius who impresses us. The faulty genius Homer impresses us, Plato impresses us, Demosthenes also impresses us. They are like oceans, mountains, and volcanic eruptions. तो ये एक लंबा सा टॉपिक नज़र आ रहा है, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है, और इसमें हमने जो अहम बात सीखी है और जिस सवाल का जवाब दिया है वो ये है कि आया फॉल्टी जीनियस ज़्यादा बेहतर है सब्लिमिटी के हवाले से, उसमें सब्लिमिटी है, या फिर कि जो फॉल्टलेस स्किलफुल पर्सन हैं वो ज़्यादा बेहतर है। तो इन दो की कंपैरिजन हमने पढ़ी, और हमने ये पढ़ा, ये कंपेयर करता है फॉल्टी जीनियस और फॉल्टलेस राइटर को। इसका कंक्लूजन ये है लॉन्जाइनस का कि फॉल्टलेसनेस जो है ये इतना भरपूर नहीं है जितना फॉल्टी जीनियस भरपूर है, क्योंकि जीनियस ऐसी चीज़ को हाथ डालता है जिसका करना मुमकिन ही नहीं है, वो नामुमकिन अचीव करता है, तो उसमें फॉल्ट ज़रूर आएगा। और जो फॉल्टलेस है वो छोटी चीज़ के साथ को हाथ डालता है, तो इस वजह से वो फॉल्टलेस होता है, और इसमें सब्लिमिटी बहरहाल नहीं होती। फॉल्टलेस की जो मीनिंग है उसके मुताबिक वो ये है कि फॉल्टलेस वो है जो रूल्स को मास्टर करता है, रूल्स को परफेक्ट करता है, اور فالٹلیس بناتا ہے. اگر یہ رولز وائلیٹ ہو جائیں تو یہ فالٹی ہوگا، وائلیٹ نہ ہو تو یہ فالٹ لیس ہے. تو یہ اس کی ڈیفینیشن ہے فالٹلیس کی. فالٹلیس جو ہے یہ سبلائم نہیں ہو سکتا، اور اس کی ورک میں سبلیمیٹی نہیں آ سکتی، اور اس کے مختلف ریزنز ہیں. ایک ریزن یہ ہے کہ رولز جو ہے ان کا تعلق فگرز آف اسپیچ سے ہے، ڈکشن کمپوزیشن سے. یہ تینوں ہم پہلے ڈسکس کر چکے ہیں. یہ تینوں نیچرل نہیں ہیں، یہ آپ کی کوشش سے سیکھے جا سکتے ہیں. تاہم ان سے اگر سول نہ ہو، امیجینیشن اور پیشن نہ ہو، تو پھر صرف رول سے کام نہیں بنے گا، کیونکہ رولز مینر اور فارم کو ریپرزینٹ کرتے ہیں، اور اس کا تعلق کمپوزیشن کے ساتھ ہے. یہ سبلیمیٹی کی پیک کو حاصل نہیں کر سکتے. دوسری وجہ کہ سبلیمیٹی نہیں حاصل ہوتی فالٹ لیس کے ذریعے وہ یہ ہے کہ ہم رولز حاصل کرتے ہیں مختلف رائٹرز کی پریکٹسز کو اسٹڈی کر کے کہ وہ کیا چیز فالو کر رہے ہیں. لہٰذا اگر کوئی ایپک سیکھنا چاہتا ہے تو وہ ہومر کو پڑھتا ہے، اس سے رولز اخذ کرتا ہے. کوئی ٹریجڈی کو سیکھنا چاہتا ہے رولز کے مطابق تو سافکلیس جو کیا ہے اس نے اس کے مطابق کرتا ہے. اور لانجائنس کا خیال یہ ہے، اور یہ صحیح بھی ہے، کہ گریٹنس حاصل کرنے کے مختلف روڈز ہیں، اور جو گریک ٹریجڈی کے لیے گریٹ ہے وہ ایلزبیتھن ٹریجڈی کے لیے شاید گریٹ نہ ہو. اور جو گریک پلے رائٹس ہیں جنہوں نے سبلیمیٹی اچیو کی ہے، اور انگلش پلے رائٹس نے سبلیمیٹی اچیو کی ہے، تو یہ ڈیفرنٹ طریقے سے اچیو کی ہے. لاجانس 3 چیزیں بتاتا ہے جو سبلیمیٹی کے لیے اہم ہے. اسپرٹ آف دی ایج، مطلب رائٹر اپنی ایج کی اسپرٹ کو ظاہر کرے تو وہ سبلائم ہوگا. ایتھوز آف پیپل، جس کا مطلب ہے کیریکٹر آف پیپل کو ظاہر کرے تو وہ سبلائم ہوگا. اور انڈیویجول ویژن آف لائف، کہ ایک رائٹر کی ویژن آف لائف کیسے ہے، اس سے سبلیمیٹی یہ بنے گی. لہٰذا اگر 4th اور 5th سینچری کے جو رول تھے BC کے، وہ آپ 16th اور 17th سینچری انگلینڈ پہ لاگو نہیں کر سکتے. تو لہٰذا رولز زیادہ اہم نہیں ہیں، بلکہ یہ پیشنز، ایموشنز یہ زیادہ اہم ہیں. تو ایلزبیتھن پیریڈ کے جو لوگ تھے ان کا کردار ڈیفرنٹ تھا گریک لوگوں سے، اور ایسے کوئی رولز نہیں ہیں جو آل ٹائم کے لیے ہوں. لہٰذا شیکسپیئر گریٹ بنا، اور اپنی اسپرٹ آف دی ایج اس نے ریپرزینٹ کی، کیریکٹر آف دی پیپل ریپرزینٹ کیا. اور یہ اس نے گریک رول سارے توڑے تھے. لیکن جس طرح لانجائنس ہمیں بتاتا ہے ہر جگہ کے لیے سبلیمیٹی کو حاصل کرنے کے لیے مختلف روڈز ہیں، اور سافکلیز نے ایک روڈ اختیار کیا، ایسکیلس نے اور سافکلیز نے، اور شیکسپیئر نے دوسرا روڈ اختیار کیا کیونکہ اس کا ایج ڈیفرنٹ تھا، اس کے لوگ ڈیفرنٹ تھے. اس نے سافکلیز کو امیٹیٹ نہیں کیا شیکسپیئر نے، اگر کرتا تو وہ شیکسپیئر نہ بنتا. لہٰذا گریٹنس کے لیے بہت سے روڈز ہیں. جس طرح گاڈ تک پہنچنے کے لیے مختلف روڈز آپ لے سکتے ہیں، اور لہٰذا رولز جو ہیں یہ آپ کو گریٹنس اچیو نہیں کرا سکتی. تیسری وجہ کہ وہ فالٹی جینیس کو زیادہ بہتر سمجھتا ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ جو رولز ہیں یہ ڈیلیبریٹلی اپنی کوشش سے آپ حاصل کرتے ہیں. اس کے لیے آپ کو محنت کرنی پڑتی ہے، اور نالج آف رولز جب آپ سیکھتے ہیں تو پھر اس کو اپلائی کرتے ہیں. سیکھنے کا عمل، اس میں امیجینیشن کا استعمال کم ہے، لہٰذا اس پروسیس میں امیجینیشن یہ ٹرائی ہو جاتی ہے، آپ کے پیشنس کول ہو جاتے ہیں. اور ورک اگر سے فالٹلیس ہوتا ہے اگر ہم رولز کو دیکھیں، لیکن یہ گریٹ نہیں ہوتا کیونکہ اس میں امیجینیشن نہیں ہوتی. تیسری وجہ جو وہ بتاتا ہے کہ فالٹی جینیس بہتر ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ جینیس کا جو مقصد ہے، ایم ہے، وہ بہت زیادہ ہائی ہوتا ہے، بہت بہادرانہ ہوتا ہے، وہ کیئرلیسلی بغیر ڈینجرس کی پرواہ کیا جاتا ہے. لیکن یہ پیشن سے بھرپور ہوتا ہے جو جینیس کا ایم ہے، اور یہ امپاسبل کو اچیو کرنے کی کوشش کرتا ہے، جو کہ اچیو ہو نہیں سکتا تو لازمان وہ فیل ہوگا. لیکن یہ فیلئر بھی ایک فالٹ لیس کی کامیابی سے زیادہ بہتر ہے. تو لہٰذا فالٹلیس کا ایم بہت کم ہوتا ہے، اگر وہ اچیو بھی کر لے تو ہمیں متاثر نہیں کرتا، اور نیرو پاتھ پہ چلتا ہے۔ جینیس یہ ان مشکلات کی پرواہ کیے بغیر آگے جاتا ہے اور گریٹنس اچیو کرتا ہے، کیونکہ یہ فالو کرتا ہے امپاسبل کو۔ لہٰذا فالٹلیس آپ کو ایک اوسط درجے کا پوائنٹ دے گا جس میں سبلیمٹی نہ ہو۔ رائٹر کمپیئر کرتا ہے لانجائنس کے، دیکھیں کینڈل مفید چیز ہے، روشنی دیتی ہے، اور والکینو خطرناک ہے، یہ آگ اگلتی ہے، لیکن پھر بھی ہم متاثر والکینو سے ہوتے ہیں، اور یہ ایک سائیکولوجیکل بات ہے کہ ہم گرینڈ سے متاثر ہوتے ہیں۔ لہٰذا فالٹلیس کی مثال کینڈل کی ہے، اور والکینو ایرپشن کی مثال ایک فالٹی جینیس کی ہے جو زیادہ امپریس کرتا ہے آپ کو، اگرچہ اس میں مسئلے ہوں۔ اسی طریقے سے ایک ندی یہ فالٹلیس کی طرح ہے، اور این اوشن ایک فالٹی جینیس کی طرح ہے۔ سٹریم اگرچہ فائدہ مند ہے، لیکن اوشن جس کا پانی پینے کے بھی قابل نہیں ہے ہمیں زیادہ متاثر کرتا ہے کیونکہ یہ گرینڈ ہے۔ تو یہ کمپیریٹیو اسٹڈی فالٹلیس اور فالٹی جینیس کی وہ کرتا ہے، اور ہمیں ثابت کرتا ہے کہ جو گریٹ رائٹر ہے وہ ضروری نہیں ہے کہ فالٹلیس ہو، لیکن وہ جینیس ہوگا۔ اسی طریقے سے وہ ایپک، لیرک اور ٹریجڈی اور اوریٹری سے ہمیں ایگزامپلس دیتا ہے ثابت کرنے کے لیے کہ فالٹی جینیس بہتر ہے فالٹلیس سے۔ ہومر اور اپولونیس کی مثال دیتا ہے۔ ہومر ایپک رائٹر تھا، اپولونیس بھی تھا۔ اپولونیس ایک لکھا پڑھا تھا، لرنڈ آدمی تھا، اور لٹریچر کو سمجھنے والا تھا، لینگویج پہ اس کی دسترست مضبوط تھی، تو یہ فالٹلیس تھا۔ اس کو پتہ تھا کیا ارینجمنٹ ہونی چاہیے الفاظ کی، جملوں کی، اور اس کی ایک ایپک جو کہ جیسن اینڈ دا گولڈن فلیس کہلاتا ہے۔ اس میں جیسن ایک لڑکا ہے، گولڈن کہتے ہیں سنہرے، فلیس کہتے ہیں جو بھیڑ کے اوپر ہوتی ہے، فلیس اس کو کہا جاتا ہے، فر۔ تو یہ سنہرا ایک فر ہوتا ہے۔ اس کی تلاش میں ایک بادشاہ ہوتا ہے، دراصل جیسن کا انکل، پہلے جیسن کا ابو بادشاہ ہوتا ہے، اس کی امی کوئین ہوتی ہے، اور اس کا انکل جیسن کے ابو کو مارتا ہے، اس کی امی سے شادی کرتا ہے، اور جیسن چھوٹا ہوتا ہے، یہ فرار ہو جاتا ہے، یہ پھر بعد میں واپس آتا ہے، اور اس کا انکل اس کو کہتا ہے کہ ماں کو تب وہ چھوڑے گا اس جیسن کی جب وہ گولڈن فلیس لے آئے گا۔ پھر یہ گولڈن فلیس لانے کی کوشش کرتا ہے۔ اس پہ ایک مووی بھی اویلیبل ہے یوٹیوب پہ، اور آپ اس کو بھی دیکھ سکتے ہیں، جیسن اینڈ دا گولڈن فلیس اس کا نام ہے۔ تو یہ فالٹلیس ایپک اس نے لکھی ہے، اپولونیس نے، پرفیکٹ رائٹر ہے، لیکن اس کی آرٹ پرفیکٹ ہے، تاہم اس میں پیشنٹ نہیں ہے، اور اس میں امیجنیشن نہیں ہے۔ ہومر اگرچہ فالٹلیس نہیں ہے، لیکن وہ اپولونیس سے زیادہ بہتر ہے، کیونکہ یہ فل آف فائر ہے، فل آف پیشن ہے، جو کہ اپولونیس میں نہیں ہے۔ تو کنکلوژن وہ نکالتا ہے کہ فالٹی جینیس بہتر ہے، ہومر بہتر ہے۔ اسی طریقے سے ڈیموستھینیز اور ہائپریڈیز کو کمپیئر کرتا ہے، یہ دونوں آریٹرز تھے۔ ہائپریڈیز ایک کلچرڈ آریٹر تھا، اس کے پاس علم تھا، ووکیبلری تھی، الفاظ تھے، ہیومر تھا۔ ڈیموستھینیز ان ایجوکیٹڈ تھا، ان کلچرڈ تھا، اور کوئی سینس آف ہیومر نہیں تھا، لیکن لو آف دا کنٹری اس کے پاس تھا، اور فیشنز اور امیجنیشن تھے، اور اس کا ہر سینٹینس تھنڈر بولٹ اور فلیش آف لائٹننگ کی طرح تھا۔ لہٰذا یہ ہائپریڈیز سے زیادہ بہتر تھا، اگرچہ وہ فالٹلیس تھا اور یہ فالٹی جینیس تھا۔ تو کنکلوژن وہ یہ نکالتا ہے کہ فالٹی جینیس بہتر ہے۔ ٹریجڈی میں وہ ایگزامپل ہمیں سافوکلیز اور چیوس کی دیتا ہے۔ چیوس جو ہے فالٹلیس تھا لیکن گریٹ نہیں تھا، اور اس کے مقابلے میں سافوکلیز فالٹی جینیس تھا لیکن گریٹ تھا۔ لیرک پوئٹری سے پنڈار اور باکیلیڈیز کی ایگزامپل دیتا ہے۔ باکیلیڈیز فالٹلیس تھا لیکن گریٹ نہیں تھا۔ پنڈار اگرچہ فالٹی جینیس تھا لیکن وہ گریٹ تھا، اور اس نے ہمیں امپریس کیا۔ تو یہ مختلف سائیکولوجیکل ریزن بھی ہمیں اس نے، اور یہ پوائنٹ اہم ہے یاد رکھنے کے لیے، کیونکہ یہ بعد میں پھر ہم ڈسکس کریں گے۔ سائیکولوجیکل ریزنز کی وجہ سے یہ پریفر کرتا ہے فالٹی جینیس کو، اور اس میں سے ایک سائیکولوجیکل ریزن یہ ہے کہ انسان میں ڈیوائن اسپرٹ ہے اور اس کی باڈی یہ اینیملس سے ریلیٹڈ ہے کیونکہ یہ ایٹ ڈرنک اور ریسٹ لیتا ہے، تو لہٰذا انسان کے پاس بھی یہ گاڈ سے آیا ہوا سول ہے اور اس کے دل میں گویا گاڈ بستا ہے، تو اس ڈیوائن فائر کی وجہ سے انسان چونکہ مطمئن نہیں ہوتا، مزید کوشش کرتا ہے، انفینٹ تک اللہ تعالیٰ سے ملنے کی کوشش کرتا ہے۔ یہ ملنے کی کوشش اگر ناکام بھی ہو جائے تو تب بھی یہ اس کامیابی سے بہتر ہے جس میں آپ چھوٹی چیز کی طرف کوشش کرتے ہیں۔ تو یہ گریٹ فیلیئرز جو ہیں یہ اسمال سکسیسز سے بہتر ہے۔ انسان متاثر ہوتا ہے گرینڈ اور ونڈرفل سے، وہ کینڈل سے زیادہ متاثر نہیں ہوگا، والکینک ایرپشن سے زیادہ متاثر، یہ سائیکولوجیکل ریزنز ہیں، اور وہ اسٹریم سے متاثر نہیں ہوگا اور اوشن سے متاثر ہوگا، یہ سائیکولوجیکل ریزن ہے، اور ان ریزنز کی بنیاد پہ وہ ہومر اور پلیٹو اور ڈیماستھینیز کو ترجیح دیتا ہے۔ تھوڑا سا یہ لیکچر لمبا ہوا، اینی ہاؤ اس کو سنیں اور کوئی مسئلہ ہو تو بتائیں۔ تھینک یو اینڈ گڈ لک۔